Karibuni sana, tunaweza kuanza sasa career workshop. My name is Collins from Arusha Shapers, and I'm honored to be a facilitator for today. Tutaanza kwanza kwa kuelezea kidogo agenda yetu ni nini ambayo tunaenda kucover kwenye kipindi hichi cha leo. Ikiwemo introduction kwenye Arusha Shapers. Sijui kama wengi wote tumeshasikia Arusha Shapers ni nini. What is Arusha Shapers? We'll then introduce our fantastic guest speaker that we're honored to host today, Mariam, and then we will deep dive into finding your why, your ikigai, ambayo nitafanua kidogo mbeleni, CV, cover letter, followed by Q&A. First, before we get started, just some ground rules about Zoom. I am not sure if all of us have already used Zoom previously, but if not, then maybe we can point out just three features, such as the chat feature that allows you to be able to send a message to the audience or to somebody privately, and you can access this by looking at the bottom of your screen. Kwa kuweza kuongea kwenye kipindi kupitia Zoom, unaweza uangalia hapo chini kwenye screen yako, utaona more, afu unaweza kuconnect, click on chat na kutuma message zako ili tuweze kushiriki pamoja, kwa sababu lengo la kipindi cha leo ni kwamba wote tuweze kushiriki, tujifunze kwa pamoja. And also just a caution that if you see anything strange that appears on our screen during this call, then that is likely that we have been hacked, because I'm sure we are aware that the increasing use at the moment of Zoom has led to a lot of hacking and inappropriate content being shared across the platform. So if this is the case, then do not panic, just let us know and we will stop the video to deal with this. So to get us started, a little bit of an introduction into Global Shapers Arusha Hub and where we're calling ourselves the Arusha Shapers. Global Shapers is a community of young change makers across the world in more than 140 countries, driving dialogue, driving action, and change locally. So jamii ya vijana ambao wana moyo na motisha kuboresha jamii zao, ikiwa ni mji, ikiwa ni dunia kwa ujumla, kwa kupitia njia tofauti, kwa kuandaa project ambazo tunatekeleza, kwa kujitolea, kwa kuandaa mjadala mbalimbali na kwa njia zingine. And I can group Arusha Shapers or all Global Shapers communities into doing three main activities. The first being shaping shapers, so helping the members of these hubs to develop themselves, kujijenga katika uongozi na nafasi zao kwenye jamii. Second, shaping our cities, which means doing local projects, as I mentioned previously, that I'm going to give some examples of. So local projects that bring in change to our local communities. It can be our cities, our towns, and the country, and then shaping the world. So together, if you bring all of these initiatives, all of this drive together, all these dialogues that are happening, it's able to really drive impact across the world. Global Shapers is an initiative of the World Economic Forum with more than 420 hubs across these 148 countries. And it's really an interesting community bringing grassroots knowledge plus global perspectives. Kuwapa mfano zaidi ya hizi project ambazo tunafanya kushape our cities ni nini. An example is here as the Arusha Shapers, we have 4 key thematic areas. The first being innovation and entrepreneurship. Kwa tuna mradi mbalimbali kwenye ubunifu na ujasiriamali, including one ambayo ilikuwa na focus kwenye technology in the tourism sector. Our second key thematic area is environment, because we're all aware of the increasing importance of climate change and other environment-related issues. Third is education. We have run different campaigns online to share different knowledges from experts, as well as doing things such as trainings on cybersecurity. So a whole diverse areas covered through education and health. To give an example, and especially we know now in this interesting times that we're living through, the importance of health, and we've done several projects, including participating in a blood drive, so giving blood donations on World Blood Day, and we have other health initiatives planned up. So this is about Arusha Shapers, but today we are very excited to have with us an expert of the HR field, mtaalamu wa And we are back. Sorry about the technical difficulties. We are adapting together. So kuendelea, we are in the process of welcoming Mariam, who is going to be our guest speaker today to share with us really some practical insights from her experience on the field. So let's welcome Mariam. I know wherever you are, you can give a clap for Mariam. Like we're in a real event. We highly appreciate you being with us, Mariam. Introduce Mariam Dogo. Mariam ana uzoefu mbalimbali from across different sectors, including startups, including finance. She's worked at Empower before. She also has experience across different functions, ranging from recruitment, personal development coaching, legal, operations, and is now a founder of Bloom, where she's particularly focusing on the HR part, because Bloom had focused, initially had started looking at psychology and more the counseling angle, but now Mariam is pioneering the HR services and working as a talent acquisition consultant. Karibu sana, Mariam.
Asante, Collins.
We're going to hear more from Mariam in a few minutes. But first, we're going to jump into the first section of our workshop, which is Ikigai. Ikigai. It takes a little bit of practice to say it very well, and I think I'm still learning how to pronounce this beautiful word. Ikigai, manake kwanza ni nini? Hebu tuanze kuelewa vizuri manake ikigai ni nini, hii lugha ni ya wapi. So Ikigai is Japanese, from a city called Okinawa, which actually has the highest age expectancy in the world. People from Okinawa has the highest amount of people that live beyond the ages of 100 years old. So the most centenarians in the world. So there's something that they've understood about doing life that is working well. So tunaweza kujifunza kutoka wao, kwa sababu ni mji ambao una watu wazee kuliko mji mwingine. Kwa tunaweza kujifunza kutoka kwao ni nini ambacho kinawasaidia. And many researchers have looked into this, and it's the concept of Ikigai. To translate Ikigai, Iki, we can translate it as life, and Gai as value. So together, life value, which ni kama your reason for being, your purpose, why you get out of bed in the morning. And we think that this should be closely related to your work. And to help us understand why, I have a question for all the members in the audience. Write in the chat, on average, how much of our lives do we spend working? On average, ni kiasi gani ya maisha yetu ambayo tunatumia kwenye kufanya kazi? Je, ni 50%, ni 70%, ni 25%? How much on average do we spend working? And then write your answers in the chat. Kujiunga na chat ni hapo chini unabonyeza more and then chat. 70%. Who else has an idea? How much on average do we spend working? How many, on average, how much proportion of our lives do we spend working? Kuna mmoja ambao amekaribia, wote tumepata idea, na mmoja ambao amekaribia zaidi kwenye the right response ni Mohammed, saying 30 to 40%. And so indeed, estimate shows that we spend, if you look at all our lives, so even our childhood as well as the time when we retire, so all of this time, factoring in how much time you sleep as well, because if you sleep for 1/3 of your life, then we work actually on average 1/3 of the time of our lives. That's why it's really important for us to understand why we work. And the question that we want to ask you guys, why exactly we actually are working? What is the aim of our careers? Is it for money? Is it kuonekana kwamba kweli tumebobea maisha, tumefanikiwa? For prestige? Is it to make an impact? What is it? Why is it that we work? And do these reasons last? So we're going to continue answering this question as we go through the workshop. Now, nieleze kidogo ikigai, what it's all about. And then we're going to go practically step by step to fill this in. The Ikigai principle is all about finding a balance. Finding a balance between your passions, a balance with your talents, balancing with what the world needs and what you're willing to be paid for. Because we know that you have to survive in this world. So Ikigai is all about finding a balance. When you balance all of these 4 different areas of your life, you have your Ikigai in the middle. We're going to go through each one, but the key categories are: what do you love? What are you good at? And if you mix what you love and what you're good at, then we have here your passion. This is something that's really meaningful to you, something that you're willing to sacrifice for. What the world needs, the 3rd category. And lastly, what you can be paid for. Let's look at each section one by one. And then, as we mentioned in the marketing for this workshop, it's a practical workshop. So then we encourage you to practically start writing down what comes to your mind when we ask the following questions. So the first section we're going to deep dive into is, what do you love? Ni kitu gani ambacho unakipenda? Yaani hamna hata uulize mara 2 mara 3, hamna haja kuuliza mara nyingi. Ni kitu gani ambacho naturally unapenda? Take a paper and pen, or if you have your laptop, take a paper and pen and write it. Note down what comes to mind. What do you love? This could be food. Maybe you love food. Maybe you love experiencing different cultures. Maybe you love gender equality. Whatever this be, take some few seconds to write down what is it that you love.
dokta, unaweza kuwa star, nataka kuwa lina, unaweza kuwa sharp, kipaji malia.
Fantastic. So we have been tunajibu swali, what do we love? The first part of understanding the ikigai. And here is not about, we don't have to link this directly to a profession. We're going to do this as we go along. Fantastic. I'm seeing some great ideas coming through in the chat. So the first question is, what do you love? The second part of ikigai is understanding, what are you good at? What are you good at? And here, maybe it can be easiest if I ask your friend or somebody that you work with or your fellow student at university, and if I ask them, rafiki yangu John yani huyu anaizia nini sana sana? That can be easier. Think about it from that perspective of what would your friends say that you're good at if you're unable to identify your own strengths and skills, which sometimes is difficult to do. So let's take again some time to write down, what are you good at? What are you good at? This could be training. This could be organizing people. This could be events. This could be analyzing. If somebody gives you something, you've already thought 10 steps ahead. You can see the challenges, you can see how to come up with different solutions. Maybe your strength is persuading people. You always get your way. It's very easy for you to convince your parents, your friends around you, na idea zako. So these are all what we are good at, our skills. Let's take again some time to write down, what are we good at? Jambo kati kwenye maisha yako, naweza kuwa Diamond, naweza kuwa Jay, naweza kuwa Davey, naweza kuwa Ray, bila kuwa saa, it's your time. Naweza kuwa Tini, you got something special. Bila Lady Davey, trust me and so trust me, consigo optimism, mtoto yako. You can be a boss, you can be a lawyer, you can be the president, you will be successful. Kutimiza malengo yako na kusianza sasa. We're now going to continue looking at the next part of Ikigai, which is, what does the world need? What does the world need? So far, we've been looking at, what do we love? Tunapenda nini? What are we good at? Naturally, what are we good at? And now we're looking, what does the world need? Dunia hii ambayo tunaishi inahitaji nini? And this is what normally gives you the sense of belonging, or the purpose. And to think about what the world needs from your own perspective, because najua kwamba dunia inahitaji vitu vingi sana, lakini from your perspective, what does the world need? And to help you understand that, you can look at what issues in the community, your local community, in the country as a whole, as Tanzania, or globally, what issues really affect you emotionally, personally. What has an impact? Ukisikia tu habari kweli inakusogeza, inakusumbua sana wewe binafsi. Ni tatizo gani kwenye jamii ikiwa labda ni Arusha, jamii ikiwa ni Tanzania, jamii ikiwa dunia nzima, what does the world need? Kwa hiyo tuchukue tena muda kujaribu kuelewa, kuandika chini, from my perspective, mtazamo wangu, dunia inahitaji nini? Ni tatizo gani kwenye jamii ambalo kweli linanisumbua, linanigusa mimi binafsi? Let's take some time to look at this again. Fantastic. And now we're moving to the last part, of Ikigai. What can you be paid for? What can you be paid for? Because we know that our careers are an important source of our income. And so we have to ask ourselves, from what I've thought about it, what can I personally be paid for? Or if you have not started working yet, what would I like to be paid for? Or you can look at somebody in the same career and think, okay, this person is being paid for this kind of work. So write down now, what can you be paid for? Can you be paid for, to give you some examples, for researching? Some people are very good at researching. Can you be paid for public speaking? One of the members mentioned that they're doing public speaking. What can you be paid for bringing people together and trying to facilitate ideas? So all things that you can be paid for, because we can see now market people are already getting paid for that. So now take some time to write down, what can you be paid for?
Because lazima na usirudi nyuma. You'll be a hero, you can be the best, you can be a leader. Tanzania ni yako, penda watu wako, kuwa mfano bora kwenye jamii yako. Saa kama AY, kufika lipo FA, inawezekana if you work hard in there. Utafika mbali, utazame ulipotoka, ulifu mwenye hadhi kama Dija Mwanamboka. Naweza kuwa rubani, naweza kuwa hakimu, nataka kuwa salama, naweza kuwa hashimu. Leo, kutimiza malengo yako. Anza sasa. Jishughulishe utapata.
Fantastic. And so now we have looked at the 4 different areas of Ikigai. We have looked at first, what do you love? Unapenda nini? What are you good at? Dunia yetu inahitaji nini? And lastly, what can you be paid for? The challenge now is to try, and I think you can already see it naturally happening, to see how they can overlap. How the different areas, what you've written for what you love and what you're good at, there will be some overlap. What you've written between what you can be paid for and what the world needs, perhaps there's also some overlap. And then the challenge now to find that area, that Ikigai, is bringing all of them together. This is not a simple process, and it takes some time. I'll give you an example to help you think through this. For example, if I said that what I love is kids, I love children, I love when they run around and they're screaming, love it. What am I good at? I'm good at explaining things, perhaps. What the world needs, I think, is a more inclusive world. We need more inclusion of women and girls, people from different ethnicities, from different backgrounds, etc. And what I can be paid for, perhaps, is teaching. If I was to bring all of these different areas together, with the example that I just gave, my Ikigai would be something along the lines of, I am seeing students improve. I love seeing students improve. That would be my reason for being, my life value, seeing students improve, which can be expressed in different ways. Another example of an Ikigai, after you bring all these 4 together, would be perhaps what makes you get out in the morning of bed is seeing customers happy. And that can be infano of an Ikigai. Or maybe your Ikigai is taking care of people, taking care of your team. And all of these Ikigais can be expressed through different careers, different professions. So to get more concrete now, we'd like to help you set a SMART career goal. So let's imagine the next 1 year. So now you're starting to work on your Ikigai, your motivation, your purpose, your reason for being. Now let's look at, okay, how can I translate this into one career goal within the next 1 year? Allow me to introduce, for maybe somebody's seeing this for the first time, what is the concept of SMART goals? So SMART stands for specific, measurable. So your goals should be something you're able to measure. Normally it has a number if it's measurable. Achievable, something that you're able to achieve. To me, a little bit tough, it can stretch you, but it's something unaweza kuifikia. Relevant, so this goal should be relevant to your ikigai, should be related to this, and time bound. Ni vizuri kwa malengo yetu yawe na tarehe ambayo tunataka tuangalie tuweze kujipima kwa tarehe hii tutakuwa tumeweza kufikia hili lengo, ili tuweze kujua kama tumefikia au la, tumepata changamoto wapi, tunaweza kuboresha wapi. So I want to help you guys think through setting a career goal for the next 1 year. Inaweza kuwa labda ni bado ni mwanafunzi na unamaliza chuo, au umefanya kazi miaka kadhaa unataka kubadilisha kazi. Let's look for the next 1 year. What do you want to achieve? First question. Next question. For me to achieve that in the next 1 year, what skills and experiences are needed for that? And last question, what 3 actions or steps can I take right now to help me build those skills and experiences so that I can be able to reach my SMART career goal in 1 year? Nitoe mfano. Labda mimi ni wanafunzi, namaliza chuo, ningependa kupata field, nikishamaliza field kwenye sekta ya utalii, because naisha Arusha labda, kwenye marketing. So in my next 1 year, I want to nataka nipate field nzuri kwenye sekta yangu ya utalii, because I love experiencing different cultures, my ikigai. What skills? So that's my goal. Next year, I need an internship in my sector, so it's specific, time-bound, relevant. What skills and experiences are needed for that? Labda kwenye kupata hiyo field lazima niweze kuongea labda lugha 2-3, kwa sababu tunajua kwamba watalii wanaongea lugha tofauti, kwa lazima mimi labda niweze kuongea lugha 2 au 3. Na niweze kujua habari za dunia mzima ili niweze kuongea na kujenga uhusiano mzuri na watalii ambao tutapokea. What 3 action steps can I take now? So if I know that I need to gain my skills and experiences in speaking different languages, I can start right now to learn a new language. I can start looking at learning French or Italian, whichever language that I want to target. So I can start today. 1 action. Second action, I need to do a study of what are all the tour companies that are offering internships in Arusha. That's an action. Third action, I need to better understand what's going on in the world so that I'm able to build better relationship with the tourists. So those are just an mfano ya actions ambazo unaweza kuchukua sasa hivi ikuruhusu uanze kujenga ujuzi na uzoefu ili uweze kufikia lengo lako kwenye career yako ndani ya mwaka mmoja. So I'll give you now some time for you to think personally and set your SMART career goal by answering these 3 questions on the screen.
Nataka kuwa nina, naweza kuwa sharp, kipaji mali yako, elimu ngao yako, chachu jambo kati kwenye maisha yako. Naweza kuwa Diamond, naweza kuwa Jay, naweza kuwa Davey, naweza kuwa Ray. Bila kuwa saa, it's your time. Naweza kuwa Tini, you got something special. Napenda Lady JD, come to me as it all. Trust me, kusiku kutimiza ndoto yako. You can be a boss, you can be a lawyer, you can be the president, you will be successful. Wakati wako ndio leo, kutimiza malengo yako. Nakusihi, anza sasa. Jishughulishe utapata. Wakati wako ndio leo, kutimiza malengo yako. Nakusihi, anza sasa. Jishughulishe milima. Because unazima na usirudi nyuma. You'll be a hero. You can be the best. You can be a leader. Tanzania ni yako, penda watu wako, kuwa mfano bora kwenye jamii yako. Star kama AY, kufika lipo FA. Inawezekana if you work hard and utafika mbali, utazame ulipotoka. Ulifu mwenye hadhi kama Dija Mwanamboka. Naweza kuwa rubani, naweza kuwa hakimu, nataka kuwa salama, naweza kuwa shuhudia leo. Timiza malengo yako.
Fantastic. We hope, I'm sure it's not enough time to set detailed your career goal for the next 1 year, but I hope that makes you start thinking and you can have some time after the session to continue developing your career goal. We're now going to move into continuing with a very practical approach to this workshop, looking at two important documents that are involved in the job application process. And with now, I am excited to welcome Mariam, our guest speaker from Bloom, to share with us first to meet the participants and then share with us a little bit her insights from her practical experience about this famous two-letter document CV that causes people a lot of stress, called the CV. Karibu, Mariam.
Asante sana Collins. Habari zenu wanafunzi wenzangu. Naitwa Mariam, as Collins said. Natokea Bloom. We work in psychology and HR solutions. Collins, nashukuru for inviting me to participate in this engagement and to share my thoughts. A few disclaimers before we begin. The tips that we've included are not set in stone, so feel free to cultivate your own and build around them. And I don't have all the answers, but I would like to help as much as I can, as best as I can. I've drawn a lot from my experience as a recruiter, and I'm sure that you also find either similar tips online from other recruiters who feel the same way or share similar sentiments. And to kick off with, I would like to begin with the one thing that I think does give us this crazy amount of stress when we're about to work on our CV, which is what I like to call or think of as CV hygiene. We receive tons of CVs, and for the most part, when you look through a graduate CV, you will find a lot of information. Guys, the one thing I must tell you is think about the audience that you are sending this to. This is either a decision maker or somebody who is acting on behalf of that decision maker. So this could be either an HR manager or a recruiter in this case, or the hiring manager themselves. So think of them as you're crafting this document that is to get your foot through the door, and keep it simple. And so without further ado, I'll dive right into it. Start off by including your basic information, which is your name and your contact information. You will sometimes receive a CV that will have, I think, a quarter of a page filled with just the person's particulars information, which is their name, and this will include their first, second, third, and fourth name. Just include your first and last name, it is sufficient. Secondly, include your contact information. We need to be able to get a hold of you if after I've skimmed through your CV for the next 20 seconds, I'm interested and I want to pick up the phone to get a hold of you, I need to be able to reach you. Don't give me 5 phone lines. Give me 2, give me a primary line and give me a secondary line. And this is if I cannot get a hold of you, which would now either be your friend, colleague, who you would obviously have a very close relationship to, your sister, your brother, your spouse, your partner. So 2 primary contact details or numbers, and then also include your email address as well as your residential address, because we then start to paint the idea of where you live. So let's say Kazi Kombini, but you live in Vingunguti. Already I start to paint a picture. Or let's say in the context of Arusha, let's say, you know, Kazi Kopale Pamolil, but then you live in Sakina, right? So that for a recruiter starts to now factor in maybe even costs, you know, if you were successful in a role Pamfano. And then your next line item will be your profile. And I'll dive into, and I'll speak at length about your profile when I get to the second point. And so so far we've got your name, your contact information, next is your profile, and you can trade that with your education piece, which you can decide kama you want to have it before or you want it just towards the end. And I'll touch on that as well as I continue to break down this hygiene piece. Experience. And don't worry if you don't have any experience. And when we talk about experience, I imagine you've either volunteered, you have interned somewhere, or at the very least, you have gotten involved in some projects, if not one or two, or if you haven't done that either, you've been instrumental in something. You've been a treasurer, you've been a coordinator in events, you've done something. I don't think that Mekachu and you've been in your dorms studying the entire time. You must be involved with something. And so that's where your experience can come in. And when it comes to your academic picture, just write your secondary education as well as your university and what it is that you're pursuing in university and what stage you're in. You don't need to write your primary education. You don't need to write your kindergarten information. I would assume that that's how you were able to get into university. So just those two will do. And then your interest, because that gives us an idea of the things that you care about. Okay, and then we also would like to have your references there. Now, your references cannot be a friend or a family member. They either have to be a lecturer or someone that you have spent time on doing work under, okay? And then on to profiling now, which is where all this goodness will come to the fore from Ikigai. So as you're building the stuff on, the Ikigai map and you're internalizing and you're saying, yes, I really like sleeping, like Caroline, which I can tell you is, my number one joy. If somebody could pay me to sleep, I would earn a lot of money, but I'm probably broke because I can't do that for a living. What you need to include in your profile is everything else that you've been able to build up on your Ikigai process. So what do you enjoy? What do you care about? What do you spend your time in? Let that be 2 to 5 sentences that are clear and concise. And if somebody reads it, they start to think, okay, I can see where I could place this person. I see why this person wants to apply for this job. You always have to connect why you want to apply for the role and how the two can be a success combined. And then we then move on to our third step, or third tip rather, which is to not include buzzwords. Guys, there's a million of CVs that will always tell us that people are hard workers. This is either something that we have found online from a template or we've taken somebody else's CV. If there's anything that you can walk away with from this workshop today, is to try and build your CV from scratch. Free fall this process, and trust me, you will thank Collins for this later. If it means writing it in Swahili, do that. My own personal experience in my finance class has been that I would literally translate everything into Swahili in order for me to actually understand the content that the lecturer would be sharing, because I am not that confident when it comes to finance. So build it up from scratch. translate it to what you know and what resonates and what talks to you, and then we can always modify it. But start without having any help from Google. Without any help from an old CV that you've seen somewhere or you've saved somewhere. Build it up from there. And don't tell a recruiter or a hiring manager just how hardworking you are, because the minute I have you sitting across me and I ask you to demonstrate just how much hard work you've done in the past year, you're usually stuck, or at least in my experience, the candidate will have either a rehearsed response to that question, which everybody can see through, and it just puts you in a position where it doesn't get you to the next stage. So try to make this as, as original as it could possibly be. And so, and like I've highlighted on the presentation, and Collins will share this information with you guys. There's a little toolbox that we've put together. So he'll send this through and you guys can access this information. Is at the end of the day, it's a million other students who are saying the same thing. And if you're not getting through the next stage, then the country's at a disadvantage, because there's actually so much more that you guys have to offer. Because guess what? Everybody who is experienced is on their way out. So we're looking at you guys to come and build up on these companies to help the economy thrive and do the work that will get us all to the next stage, okay? And what you must do, which is now my fourth tip, is strive to bring yourself on paper. So you can only do this if you spend a lot of time in the Ikigai process in really understanding what it is that you want to get into. You might be a scientist, but you end up being a writer. I've seen this in my time. I've actually once put forward a person who had a degree in mathematics and ended up actually working in sales just because of the way that they thought problems through. So don't be so hell-bent on where you are and because it's got to be this and it cannot be anything other than this, because what will happen is you will sometimes find yourself in a position where you are stuck between opportunities that don't necessarily translate to what you've studied. So this is why we talk to your interests and the things that you spend time in that at least give you some level of joy, when it comes to your time and how you wish to spend it. And finally, be open to possibilities, which is to really echo what I've just highlighted there. You come out of Chuo and somebody is like, well, can you intern? And at that point in time, you're not really thinking about your future. You just you're hungry, right? I always go back to the hierarchy of needs, and the first thing we need is to get food and shelter. So when you get out of Chuo, you'll be lucky if you end up in a role where you're like, oh my God, this is fantastic. Most of us usually end up in roles where we have to almost prove ourselves. So be open to that, because that could be your reality. And that's where your interest and the activities that you've been involved in will really come in hand, because if you liked coordinating, I remember my first job, I was a receptionist at a legal firm. And I got hired because I didn't mind serving tea. That for me is the one thing that I usually go back to. And it's the stuff that I till this day, I enjoy hosting. I like having people over. I want to get busy in the kitchen. I want to make something. I want to see smiles and across people's faces. That's me. So think about those things that you spend your time in and you care about, and let those things be your aid when you're stuck or you're lost and you're not sure about the next move that you're about to make. Now, I have given you guys a template of a CV, which is to help you now think further when it comes to you building up your document. What you could do is expand on it, and it doesn't have to be the traditional route. I've tried to play around with it. I've tried to be creative with this template, and it's just to give you that ease and to say that you don't always have to get that same level of stress each time when you open up that document, because it can be a fun document to look at. Remember, this is your foot through the door. This document is what gets you across. So think about your skills, your abilities, talk about what you've been through in your academic journey, future-proof. That's the one buzzword I am willing to use even on my own CV. So think about what potential you could have in the future. So don't wait for the HR manager to make that decision for you. Show them what it is that you can do. Profile yourself for the future. So yes, I'm open to doing what I'm doing right now or what you're asking me to do, but in the future, this is where you could plug me because I'm interested in X or I've done X. And so include that information. Okay, and you will have all of this, by the way. So if you're thinking, oh, how do I get a hold of this? You know, stuff that Mariam is talking about, it will be shared with you. And with, let me see here, we've got our next slide. Collins, could you help me with the next slide? So we've got tips that Collins has put together for us, and he's urging us to start with a verb, an action verb that will, you know, show what it is that you've actually done. So like I said, this could be from, you know, I've been a treasurer for, you know, this school hub that, you know, this hub we've been running in school, or I have volunteered at X. You know, I've volunteered at FHI, and my role was to coordinate, you know, an outreach program that was specific to the community that, you know, FHI was serving. Be consistent, and this will fall under now everything else that you include in your CV. So from your contact information to your profile, as well as the experience that you're going to list, it's got to have some form of alignment. You cannot have, like, sometimes I see, and this is from when people have copied and pasted stuff that it doesn't belong to them, and you'll see like uppercases, and then you'll see some font size decreasing along the way, and you're thinking, what happened here? Guys, don't be that person, don't be that student. Quantify your impact, quantify your results. So in the work that you've done or in the roles that you've served, how have they enabled or helped the people that you were doing it for? How has that gotten them to the next stage? And even if it hasn't, what is it that you think will potentially impact the people that you've served under? Okay, and again, triple check to remove errors. What I usually do, and this is particularly with emails, is I do not send an email without reading it, so before I send it, I would remove the addressees. So I wouldn't have like Collins's email address before I send it to him. I would read it twice, and only when I'm comfortable would I then include his name on the sender's list, and then I send it across. And that is to make sure that I am confident and I am comfortable in the messaging that I am sending across. Okay. And then we have now our cover letter and why it is still important and why you guys need to write these, because you're coming out into the world, the real world, where you have to now go figure out how you're going to take what you've learned and apply it, because everything else is in theory true. You have to now come and actually contextualize what it is that you've gathered from your knowledge and your experiences from you know, studying with other students, and how that has helped you develop other skills and abilities, and can potentially will help you now in your next job. Next slide. Guys, and if you have any questions, please write on the chat box. Chat box rather. I'm thinking about a chat robot. Write them down on the chat box, and if you won't, please send us an email if you're not comfortable always putting stuff up online. And so, why cover letters still matter? Some of you might wonder, and again, we go back to going online and finding templates that people have written down for many years, and we say, I like this one because it talks to what it is that I want to say. Same advice like what I've just shared when it comes to your CV. Take the time to build it up from scratch. You can get help. There's plenty of that around. There's the Arusha Shapers. There are people like ourselves. We do exist. And we do take the time because we do know the kind of position we are in as a country, and the responsibility that lies on us who see all this talent that's coming through papers on a daily basis. And so ask for help, but don't let your first response to go online and find what's happening in Google. A, you're killing your brain cells, you're not forcing yourself to think. B, you're adopting what somebody else thinks is what should be shared. It's a reflection of them. It's not you, and that's where the confusion starts. Okay, so why cover letters matter, and what will be appreciated on the other side, which is now the potential hiring manager or HRBP, or the recruiter in this case, is it shows that you took the time to set yourself, aside from the pack, from candidates who are applying for the same job. It tells us that your CV was not enough, so you've made an effort to actually giving us a glimpse to your personality. So what do you like? How do you communicate? Because already I start to build an image as I'm reading through the stuff, and I can see the kind of communicator that you are. And it is a genuine opportunity to show interest in the role that you're applying for. And what you must do is avoid, over complimenting and, emphasizing just how amazing the company is. Half the time you'll find that what people have displayed on their websites is not a true reflection of what they really like internally. So think about, what you have on your CV and how that is relevant to the role that you're applying for. And for more tips, I could not say this again for a millionth time, is to resist the urge to go online for this particular process. Build it up and see where you land. And what I will tell you is, at the end, the gratifying experience for you will be that you own your experience. When you look at that document, you see yourself. There's no person from the US or Canada or the UK or South Africa or Nigeria or Ghana, for that matter, that has had a touch onto your CV. That document is you. It is a replica of you, and it is the kind of document that gives me a hint as to my next decision and why I would want to be sitting across you and thinking about sending you to now a client who is who's taking my word. They're saying, well, I trust you, so whoever you send across must be of a certain quality, and so I'll take your word on that. And so don't deny yourself the chance or opportunity by imitating or taking up what's been said or done by somebody else. Start the process yourself, and if you're stuck, ask for help. Okay, so I will end that for now. Writing tips. So the specific examples that you can highlight. Oh, yeah, this is now for the cover letter. Sorry, guys. So specific examples that you can touch on for the company. And this is now related to the job. So if you can then go online and actually look up now what it is that they have been recently doing, that always shows the employer that you are paying attention to what they're doing in their company and how they're affecting now the society that they operate in at large. Give specific examples of your motivation. So this is where the why comes in, and this is why the Ikigai process is so crucial as you're doing so, because then you're able to lean in and say, well, this is why I would like to do X, because I have done X. Like if you imagine this scenario, the Daily News or Monanchi had advertised for a post, and you're working in, and you've done a course in journalism, and you apply for this post, and you go in, Afuna Ulizo, so, what work have you actually done? And you're sitting there and you're going, I say, I wanted to get started. but you haven't. So, but then imagine if you go in and you say, actually, there's this thing that I've written and there's that blog that I've written. That sets you apart and it gives you a chance into now the next stage, because they see just how keen and serious you are about the job, and make sure that your experiences or your skills match the role that you're applying for. Okay. And if it doesn't, lean on your interests, lean on the activities that you've done. There has to be a transferable set of skills that you can apply in various roles. So don't always think, oh, because I'm a scientist, I can't get into a customer-facing role from Fano. So don't put those barriers in your search. And then finally, show how this role, like I said earlier, show how this role fits into your future career. So you may be doing this now, but it just adds up as a set of all these puzzle pieces that add to your life. Follow your dreams, but when I say that, I'm not saying, go out there and just, and think, oh my goodness, my life is going to be glorious, it's going to be beautiful, I'm going to be an artist. Be engaged and do the work, because following your dreams is really those two things. And I think a lot of people miss out on that. And we see all of these posts on Instagram or Pinterest. It's like, yeah, follow your dreams, don't listen to nobody. No, you need to listen to somebody who will bring you back to earth. Guys, be engaged in the crafts that you spend your time in. Take the time to really do the work. You will have moments when you're super discouraged, but don't let that break you. Don't let moments have you feel very despondent and think, well, I cannot do this because I'm not cut out for this. It is possible. It just means that you need to invest a little bit more time, or you need to explore areas that you probably haven't before. Okay. Do we have another slide? Questions? Right, hit me with it, guys.
Fantastic. Be engaged and do the work. If I could quote Mariam today, this is an amazing quote. Thank you very much, Mariam, for sharing your insights, both for the CV and the cover letter, and providing us with those practical tips about how we can be ourselves and shine, let that shine through the CV and cover letter to get us in the door. We are now open to any questions from the audience. Don't hesitate to either raise your hand in the chat or to send your question as written down in the chat. And you can do so by clicking on more and then send a chat and then send a message. And to get us started, Mariam, for maybe people that are going to be applying for the for their first jobs or their first internships, can you give us a little bit of the rough overview of what a job application, the different steps of a job application? As we've only looked at CV and cover letter today, what more should these students be expecting along the job application process?
Well, for one, I can tell you is kuna mlolongo mrefu. It depends. Is it now from an employer? So is the company advertising for the post, or are they going through another channel, which is now an agency? So there are two scenarios here. And even within an organization, you could have two different scenarios. So I'll start with an organization. Let's say Ubuntu Hub has put out an advert for a technical support role. If depending on the size, you could have an HR manager, you could have an HR VP, you could have the hiring manager, you could have a CEO involved in the decision-making process. What happens is an advert will be casted out internally first to see if they have any talent that is interested in applying for that job. And after they've gone through the process and they've interviewed a million other people in the organization, can't seem to find the right fit, only then do they go externally, and then they post this ad on their website and people can then apply. Once people apply, then there's the CV sorting process. So you filter 5,000 CVs even in a day, depending on the size of the team again. And then what would happen is an HR VP, depending on the structure of the organization, or an HR manager would then be involved in now the shortlisting process and would start to call candidates for the job and have them come in for interviews. And prior to that, they would probably put them through a psychometric test. And not every other organization does it. And another thing that I would like to add, guys, is I'm seeing a lot more companies, well, multinational companies that operate in our landscape using ATS. There's a question from Mohammed. We'll get to you in a moment, Mohammed. ATS is it's a filtering tool. So if, let's say, I'm looking for a technical support person and I feed in keywords and I say I'm looking for a person who has specific technical expertise, then that filter, what it will do for a person who is interested in food like myself, I am not getting through that filter, because everything in my CV will not match what the filter is looking for. And this is why you have got to make sure that your profile really gets you through the door, because there are you able to then highlight some of the things that you could potentially do that the filter could pick up on. Okay, so you've got the psychometric testing that people will go through, and depending on the organization, that can either get you through the door again, or it might not. So some companies are open to saying, okay, so they didn't do so well, we're not really sure about what they sound like on, from the results that we've received, and because that can, that can create bias in the shortlisting process, because you already are looking for a certain person, and if that person is not what they come through that psychometric analysis, then you might not be called in for an interview, right? But some companies are open, and they want to meet you anyway, because something said something in that CV, that one document, or that cover letter, that makes all the difference. So that's why this workshop is super important, and why you guys need to take on board the things that we're highlighting and we're recommending. And then you've got the initial conversation, and if the company is not super busy, then your interview process could mean a second conversation with now the hiring manager, or if the hiring manager was involved from what is in the initial conversation, then what would happen is you could move on straight into negotiating your salary and all of these other things. And then there's obviously the referencing that needs to be done. And then if everything goes well, you've just landed your first job. And if it's through an agency, process is very similar in the sense that you do have, steps in psychometric testing that's conducted, and that can be prior or after. It depends on how agencies, run their process. You have filters as well, and you fortunately have recruiters who will spend the time and will not always rely on what the filter will feed them, and would always go back and check and see, well, just out of interest and curiosity, who are the odd ones out? What do they say? What do they look like? If I got on the phone with them right now, what are they likely to tell me? And that's why, again, your CV is very important, because if you didn't make it through the filter, hopefully your CV is enough for me to, to start building up some interest and say, well, I want to talk to this person anyway. And again, the process would be that you would come in for initial conversation. We like you enough, we send your CV to a potential client, and recruitment agencies are not limited by just jobs. Because of the relationship they have, they can already see where you could potentially fit into organizations, and because of the relationships that they have, it's HR manager X, I've met this candidate today, I think they're brilliant, and they could really fit well in your organization, particularly in this unit. Have a chat with them, and it's usually informal if there's no opportunity. And sometimes, people get lucky and they go through that process. If there's a role that is being advertised, same process, we would shortlist you, have an informal conversation. find out what your interests are. Oh, and there's always some coaching there, and there's always coaching prior to, when you go for the interview, just to make sure that you are confident enough to go in and have the conversation, because a lot of times students will always think, well, but I don't have experience, they will never hire me. Yes, you can be hired. We have gotten so many graduates through. You do have something to offer, and the way that you can prime your thinking when it comes to that is see yourself and the potential organization. Because I think that's the mindset that a lot of students come out with, was it's an agreement that you have with the organization. The organization is a client. You are there to serve a client as they are your client, because at the end of the day, there's a salary that comes in. And the only way that you have any financial transaction that rolls through is because somebody has rendered a service. So you are rendering your services to an organization. So by you going in, and we also get very lazy, and I apologize on behalf of every recruiter or hiring manager or HR manager, which is, well, why you? And I, even as I was writing the tips, and I said, I wrote at the very top, well, why not you? And that's where you guys need to really work on your craft and internalize this ikigai process. It will really help you through these kinds of questions, because some recruiters and some HR managers have evolved from that question, but some haven't. So you need to really think about why it is that you would be a fit. And again, if you're, if it's in the lines for you, if it's in the stars for you, the job is yours. But you've got to do the work, guys. Next question. Otherwise, I'll never stop talking.
Thank you, Mariam, for sharing these insights. I'll take a shorter question to start off with. Is it appropriate to include LinkedIn accounts in a CV? From Justin.
Yes, it is. It shows me just how tech savvy you are. Well, not tech savvy, that's not the right word. Digital savvy, I guess would be the right word. So like creatives do that. Creatives will send you a link to their work, and it could be on Tumblr or Pinterest, and it's an array, or, and they've got different bits going on in there, and it just limits all the amount of work that they would have had to have done on a single document. I didn't highlight earlier, and you'll find this in the toolbox. Guys, make sure that your CV is a single page. Graduates will send CVs and they have like 5 pages. And I understand why they do that. It is to try and fill up and create this sense of, I've been busy and I'm doing all of these things. Don't do that, guys. Single page is enough. It worked for the last 12 years. I have a 2-page CV. Trust me, you can get enough on a single page. Again, you just have to create a summary that is enticing enough, that will get me to want to pick up the phone and call you and any other hiring manager who's looking at your CV. Next question.
Fantastic. Imagine that I am a graduate. How early or what stage do I need to start applying for a job?
As soon as you can. What's limiting you?
Short and sweet, okay? So tujitahidi kwanza kutuma maombi yetu ya kazi mapema iwezekanavyo.
Yeah, and okay, let me add a bit to that. I mean, you've got to be realistic, right? So kama shule na kubana, because it can be very hard to also combine shule and work. I'm personally studying right now, and I salute anybody and everybody who has done it, and I understand why, because to me it made sense. You go to work, you go back home, you spend 2 hours. It is hard to manage different plates, and still trying to remain sane and still trying to have a life. It can be very challenging. So you've got to have discipline. That's the one thing that you must cultivate. And if you don't have it, then hopefully with 2 plates that you're juggling up in the air, you will have no choice but to start cultivating healthy habits that will allow you to manage the combination of both.
Fantastic. From Patrick, how about, what should we do if we don't have work experience and we need a job? What should we do? What should we include in our CV? Swali la Patrick, kama sina uzoefu wa kazi mwingi tuandike nini kwenye CV yetu?
This is where your interests and the activities that you have been doing will come to save you. And that's why I said, write your stuff in Swahili. I personally do that. I've been doing that for years, and my friends and family think that I'm crazy. But it really helps me to think through, because sometimes I can't always capture what I'm trying to say in a language that's not my own. So start from there. Everybody has something to offer. That's the one thing that I do believe in. So look at what you spend your time in, because that will start to show you what it is that you could get into or what you could be doing. So, and I said this earlier, when it comes to your profile, this is where if work experience is missing, what is it that you do in your spare time? Are you helping out people? Are people learning anything from you? Are you learning anything from somebody? And how is that translating into what you could potentially do? Think about those things, pull them in, do a mind map, literally just draw the thing that you do. And the thing that you do can be labda, telecoms, like you're interested and fascinated by telecoms and how technology is saving everybody right now in the time that we're living in. And start to draw different things around it. That just starts to show how you could enter that world. I hope that's answered the question. If it hasn't, maybe try and ask it again.
That was a great response. Definitely, I think things that we can take action on. More questions. Does a candidate's presence on social media affect the application? Do HR recruiters take this into consideration?
Sorry, can you repeat that?
No problem. Does a candidate's presence on social media, is that something that the recruiters take into account? Someone's social media account?
Yes and no. I think there's an issue of privacy there. I think it's invasive for me to start looking at what you do in your social life. But that's a personal view, right? Although companies are getting into the habit of that, and I see that a lot in the Western side of the world, where they will check your your Facebook and what you said 5 years ago, and how that might not link to their values. I don't think we're quite there yet, although because that is looming somewhere in the background, it's lurking there. It's like, it's coming. Maybe to be then conscious about what you do, show to the world, what you do say, what you don't do, when you do get on those social media platforms. Because it could, or it does have the ability to affect you, because people can also pull out stuff. Let's say you're a public speaker, right? And maybe you're talking about a subject that is very sensitive, but yet in your personal life, there are things that you've done which will contradict what you're busy professing and saying. So, and this is why we talk about, alignment, not just in your documents, but where you are, and why Ikigai is to help you now formulate these things, or deepen them, or strengthen them rather.
Fantastic. And the last question I will take now is, perhaps from your experience, if you could share with us if you realize that there are any key differences across recruiters in the region. So are there some aspects of the application that employers across Tanzania, across Kenya, Uganda, Rwanda, Burundi prioritize over others? And the question is on the premise that we want to help the participants to succeed wherever they go in the region.
Right. That is a packed question. So I think let's unpack it in compartments. So one is this is now looking at the entire East African region. Mm-hmm. Personal experience, and I'm drawing from Nairobi and Uganda, Rwanda, yes, Rwanda as well. And what I've seen is the difference between like Kenyans and the Rwanda side is diverse in the way that they view things. It's not like the way we view things. I find that we can be bogged down with this, and they like to flesh out and stretch out the person a little bit more. So they're interested in what you can do for the organization. Like what are these transferable skills? It's not just the job that you're going to do. What else can you do to complement the organization? That's from the experience that I've had working with an organization. This is back, and this is already like 2000, and let's say this was 13, 14. And so that's always informed my thinking. They're on a different course altogether. And so if you can already start thinking in the way that they do, that ultimately puts you in a different position when you start to compete now in our own landscape. I hope that has answered the question. There was another question within that question, which was it how can candidates then put themselves ahead? Am I right, Collins?
Yes, I think you pretty much answered it. The question was how can candidates make sure that they succeed or they stand out wherever they go? So that if they're applying in Kenya, they're also succeeding. If they're applying in Uganda, they're also succeeding in the region.
And yeah, okay, cool. And I think another thing is you don't have to have a limited, like you don't have to have one document, by the way, guys. You can have multiple CVs. You can have your general CV. You can have a specific CV that you want for now your future, the one thing that you want to do, like if you're in tech, and you want to focus on just that. You can have a CV that's just purely for tech. And you can have a CV that says, you know what, guys, I want to expose myself to the world out there. I don't know, everything at this point in time, and I want to try things. I want to learn things. Be open to learning. That's another thing, guys. Be open to learning and sponging for people who have been doing work for the last, 20, 30, 50 years.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Mariam, for taking the time to join us today and share really your practical insights from the ground. We highly appreciate, and we've definitely learned. Tunashukuru sana Mariam kwa kutushirikisha uzoefu wako na tumejifunza mengi kutoka kwako. We hope that the participants have been able, and we're sure that they've been able to learn something practical that they can start implementing, all the way looking from what is my life value? What is my ikigai? What am I good at? What do I love? What does the world need? And what can I be paid for? Bringing all these together to help find your ikigai, your reason for getting up in the morning, translating this into our SMART career goal for the next 1 year. So we hope that you'll take more time to reflect on these concepts to define in the next 1 year, what do I really want to achieve? What are the skills that are necessary or experiences for that? What could be actions can you take to help you achieve that? And then the CV and the cover letter. So looking at really letting yourself shine. Mariam has explained to us in great detail, shine through these documents to help get your foot in the door. Thank you very much for joining, and you can reach out to our shapers through the details on your screen, and stay tuned for our next webinars. And the next webinar, I'm just gonna confirm the details, will be the next webinar by Arusha Shapers will be meet the parent or teacher. So looking at really the impact of COVID within that space. Tutakuwa na mwalimu, wazazi, wanafunzi anayepita katika wakati gumu. Tutakuwa tunazungumza jinsi gani ambao tunaweza kumudu huu wakati mgumu ambao tunapitiwa. Itakuwa tarehe 27 saa 11 jioni. So the next webinar we'll be looking at the impact of this crisis on parents, on teachers, on students, and how we can maneuver this area, which will be on May 27th at 5 p.m. Thank you all for joining. Have a good evening.
Thank you so much. And guys, just thinking about everything right now and what we've all shared, I'm looking at the questions. What I am willing to do, but this is going to be in June, so in the next 2 weeks, just because I have a paper that I'm writing. I am willing to help with the CVs. So if you can spend the next 2 weeks building up your CV, not going online, building it up from scratch, as you know yourself, as you are, as you've gone through this process, the ones who've attended this workshop today. So Collins, I'm gonna need you now to help me coordinate that piece. You can send me your cover letters, you can send me your CVs, we can clean them up. If Arusha Shapers are open to it, we can put something together, and we can go through your CVs together. And before that, I would like to go through them myself, and then we can use, as we have another webinar for that, we can perhaps use those as examples. So my email is very simple, it's mariam@bloom.co.tz. So do reach out to me, but do the work. Spend the next 2 weeks fleshing it out, getting your lives together on that document, and then let's see where it could go. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you very much, Mariam. Tunashukuru sana. We have also just sent a feedback form in the chat, so we'd highly appreciate it if everyone could take just 1 minute to fill out the form to help us understand your feedback from the session and also how we could support you going forward to develop your career. Thank you much, everyone. Thank you very much, everyone. Have a good evening.
Bye.